So what we're doing today is continuing on with the assignment, or what we were covering Thursday, factoring these polynomial equations. And whenever we factor these, the first step is looking for a greatest common factor. We're looking for something that will divide into all three terms. And looking at this first one here, is there a number that will go into all three terms? For Will, is there anything else? So 8 goes into 56 7 times, and 8 will go into 48 6 times. So here the greatest common factor is 8. And we always want to look for the greatest common factor. We want to look for the biggest one that will go into all three. So if we factor an 8 out of all three terms, 8 out of 8x squared is going to be just x squared. And if we factor an 8 out of 56, we have 7x. And 8 out of 48 is going to give us 6. So that takes care of the first step. Now the second step is going to be to write two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. 8 parentheses, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Guys, let's focus up here. So our first step was to see if there's a greatest common factor, and if there is, we factor it out. Our second step is to write two sets of parentheses. Tyler, turn around. Thank you. To write two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Our third step is to find the sign. If the third term is positive, then the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. And the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite.
You have to write that.
No, I always start off with it.
What hours do you have?
Third, fourth, and sixth. Yeah. So if the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. So if we look at this one here, the sign for our third term is positive. The sign of the third term is positive 6. So since the sign of the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term, which in this case is negative. So we'll have negative and negative. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, our signs are opposite. Any questions on steps 1 through 3? Yes, sir. Okay. Now that brings us to step number 4. Our fourth step is to find the factors of the first and third term. And our last step is to check. So our fourth step is to find the factors of the first and third term. We plug them in and then check it. So if we look at this here, so the factors of our first term would be the factors of x squared. So what two things multiply together to give me x squared? X and x. And those are the only factors of x squared that we can use for this here. Now we also need to look at the factors of 6. Well, the factors of 6 are 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Which one of these factors do we want to try first? 1 and 6. So we pick one of the two factors of 6, we're going to plug it in and check it. Now we don't need to worry too much about multiplying our x and x, because where did we get x and x? From the factors of x squared. So that's how we're going to get x and x. Now we don't also worry about the multiplying 1 and 6, because 1 and 6 came from the factors of 6. So when we do this here, x times negative 6, you get negative 6x. And negative 1 times x, you get negative x. We're really just checking the middle term, because that's the main one that's going to change depending on the setup. Now negative 6x minus x is negative 7x. Is that the middle term that we wanted? It does match up, so it tells us that these here are the factors for this polynomial here. And when we write our answer, we have to include the 8, because the 8 is part of the answer. For the steps?
Yeah.
Yep. You're welcome. And these steps here work for any three-termed polynomial expression. Because especially with quadratics, these work quite well. Even if the 48, the third term, had a variable with it, it still would work the same. Let's look at this next one here. 14x squared plus 31x plus 15. Is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? No. So we'll do two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Now, once you get more comfortable with these, you don't necessarily need to write the 3 spaces. I have y'all write the 3 spaces just to make sure that you have the parentheses spread out far enough so that you can fit everything in without having to try to really squeeze the numbers in together. So that takes care of steps 1 and 2. Step 3, find the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Well, here the third term is. So the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term, which is, we have plus and plus. So that takes care of steps 1, 2, and 3. Now the fourth step is find the factors of the first and third term. So we want to find the factors of 14x squared. Well, x squared's only factors are what? X and x. Anytime there's only one set of factors, I'm just going to plug those in. Now the factors of 14. 1 and 14, 2 and 7. Which one do we want to try first? 1 and 14, so we can put 1 and 14. 15 is 1 and 15 or 2 and 7. Which one do we want to try first? 2 and 7. Or not 2 and 7, it's 2 and 3 and 5. Yeah, I was thinking of 14 again. 3 and 5. So we can do 3 and 5. So sometimes it is good to just make sure you have the correct factors. So if we check this here, x times 5 is 3 times 14, x is 42x. 5x plus 42x is 47x. Are those the correct factors? Okay, well we can switch to 3 and 5. So we can erase the 3 and 5 and put 5 and 3. Well, x times 3 is 3x plus 5 times 14 is 5 times 4 is 20, so 0 carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 70. 7, we'd put it with the 0, which tells us that this is 73x. Does that work? Well, instead of the 3 and 5, we could switch it with 1 and 15. So we'd have 1 and 15. Well, x times 15 is 15x. 1 times 14 is, which gives us, is that what we wanted? No, but it's close, isn't it? So, okay, well, we can switch it, which would be 15 and, do we need to try this? Because what are we going to end up multiplying together? Well, 14 squared, 14 times 14 is 196. So 14 times 15 is going to be 210. That's way too big. There's no way we're coming back to this here. So, okay. So 1 and 14 don't work. Now I can cross it out because we tried every possible combination of 1 and 14 and our factors of 15. So that means that if this is factorable, we're going to have 2x and 7x that are going to work. And I'm going to probably lean towards 3 and 5 for this to work. So 3 and 5. So let's try this combination here. 2x times 5 is, 3 times 7x is, which is 31x. Is that the middle term that we wanted? So these here are our factors. Any questions on any of this here? All right, let's look at the next one here. 2x squared minus 7x plus 5. So, is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? No. So one will go into all of them, but it really doesn't change anything. So we can move on to our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Now when we look for the sign, if the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Well, here the third term is positive, so the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term, which is minus. So we would have minus and minus. And that takes us through steps 1 through 3. Step number 4, find the factors of the first and third term. Our first term is 2x squared and our third term is 5. So if we're looking at the factors of 2x squared first, well, the factors of x squared are x and the factors of 2. 1 and 2, yes? There aren't any others, so we just really need to plug 2 into one of the 2 spots. Do we want to put it in the first set of parentheses or the second? Second. Now we need to find the factors of 5. Well, the only factors of 5 are 1 and. So where do we put a 1 to put the 1? In the first set or the second? And 5 with the second. And now we check. Now we don't have to do x times 2x because that's still going to be 2x squared. 1 times 5 is still 5. Now x times negative 5 is negative 5x. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. And negative 5x minus 2x is that what we wanted? So that's it. Any questions on any of these here? Are you ready for the next one? Okay. So let's look at this one here. 3x squared minus 14x plus 8. Is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? No. So we can rewrite it as 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Now we need to find the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term, which is? So here it would be negative and negative. Since the 8 is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term, which is our negative. Which brings us to our next step to find the factors of the first and third terms. So the factors of 3x squared. Well, the factors of x squared are, and now the factors of 3 are, I'll just pick one to put the 3 in. Doesn't matter if it's in the first or second. Now we do need to find the factors of 8. 2 and 4, 1 and 8. Which one do we want to try first? Where do we want to put the 2? And the 4 in the second. And then we can check it. And if we check this here, do these here, 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 12x minus 2x is negative 14x. Is that what we wanted? Now, is this one here the same as the answer we got? So, are these two the same? Well, yes, because we can multiply any two things in any order. So, any other questions on this here?
No, sir.
Okay. I feel like y'all are getting the hang of these, yes? Okay. I want to go on to this one here. This one here is a little bit different than the last ones we've done. Because for this one here, the first term is not positive, it is negative. Now, our first main step doesn't change. Is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? No. But what we can do is I can factor the negative out. We can factor the negative out. So whenever that first term is negative, we'll go on and factor that negative out. And if there is a greatest common factor, we'll factor it out too. So here, if I factor a negative out of negative 4x squared, it's just 4x squared. And if we factor a negative out of negative 8x, we get positive 8x. And if we factor a negative out of positive 5, we get negative 5. So when we factor that negative out, all we did was change the sign. If it was positive, it's now negative. And if it's negative, it's now positive. And then we'll go on with the rest of the steps like normal. So the next thing we can look at is the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Well, here the third term is negative, so our signs are opposite. One is going to be positive, one is going to be negative. Questions on this here so far? Let's focus in here. So our next step is to find the factors of the first and third term. So we want to find the factors of 4x squared. Well, the factors of x squared are x and x. Now the factors of 4 are 1 and 4, or which one do we want to try first? 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? 2 and 2. And the factors of 5 are 1 and 5, guys. So we can just plug 1 and 5 in. And now we need to check it. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. 1 times 2x is plus. And negative 10x plus 2x is negative 8x. Is that the middle term we wanted? Is it positive or negative? Positive. So it's the correct number, but wrong sign. So what we need to do is change the signs. The 1 needs to be negative and the 5 needs to be positive. Because again, we factored the negative out, so we weren't looking at negative 8x, we're looking at positive 8x. And when we flip that sign, 2x times 5 is 10x. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x, which gives us the positive 8x we want. Now, just like with the greatest common factor, we still need that negative out front. It is a part of the answer. Any questions on any of this here? Let's look at one more of these and then we will be finished with the notes today and I will give you the assignment. Now looking at this here, is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? Now there's not a number that will go into 9, 3, and 2, but because the 9 is negative, the first term is negative, we can pull that negative out. Because factoring that negative out is going to make these easier to work with. Because what that'll give us is positive 9x squared. The negative 3x is going to become positive 3x. And the positive 2 is going to become negative. If we didn't factor that out, we would have to be looking at the factors of negative 9. Because our signs, the way we do step 3, is only taking into account that the third term is positive or negative. It's not working with the first term. So we have to pull that negative out if the first one is negative. So we can go on and do our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Since the third term is negative, our signs are opposite. One's going to be positive and one is negative. Now the factors of 9x squared, because we'll have x and x, but with 9 we have 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. Which one do we want to try first, 1 and 9 or 3 and 3? So we can do 1 and 9, so we can put 9 in the first one. Now the factors of 2, 1 and 2. And lastly, we can check this here. So 9x times negative 2 is negative 18x. 1 times x is plus x. And negative 18x plus x is negative 17x. Is that the middle term we wanted? No. So we can flip the 1 and 2 and give us 2 and 1. and check it again. 9x times negative 1 is negative 9x. 2 times x is plus 2x. And 9x plus 2x is negative 7x. Is that the middle term that we wanted? No. Now there's no other arrangement for 1 and 2. So we have to switch it from 1 and 9 to 3 and 3. And we can check this again. 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. 2 times 3x is plus 6x. Negative 3x plus 6x is positive 3x. Is that the middle term that we wanted? Because the middle term we wanted is positive 3x. So this is the correct one. Any questions on any of this here? Because we needed it to be a positive 3x because we factored the negative out in the beginning. All right, guys, you have the rest of the time to work on your assignment. So on page 107, it's problems 11 through 29 odd. 11 through 29 odd.